So we appreciate these opportunities to catch back up because we like to reflect on a couple of major things that happened. And a big one that is affecting all of us is Bruce Willis announcing his retirement. And I just wanted to get your guys' opinions on the idea that he announced his retirement, what you think his legacy is going to be. It always felt to me that Bruce was kind of misunderstood in the types of the things that he was capable of doing. He almost got pigeonholed into the action hero role and did some of his greatest work with you two.
Yeah. Well, he's like, I think Bruce is one of our great movie stars. And not only is he a great movie star, he was a terrific actor, and also he was a very adventuresome movie star. He used his movie star to really interesting effect. He kind of knew the kind of action movies that he could do that would really deliver well, and he did them really well. But then also he was also very quick to work with different respected directors because he wanted to work with those directors. So he used his movie starness to help those directors get those movies made. Sure. And he attached himself to a ton of different auteurs over the years and did some really challenging movies with them. And everybody from Robert Zemeckis to Terry Gilliam to working with Alan Rudolph a couple of different times, on challenging things just to do it. But then he would also work with younger directors, that he saw.
Rian Johnson.
Yeah, he saw their earlier film. He liked it, liked the
you,
script,
or
me.
Yeah. Actually, when I remember seeing him, I remember seeing Bruce on an interview on MTV, and it was before Pulp Fiction, and he was telling them what he was up to. And he was a big movie star at that time.
He saw Dog.
And he was like, well, I'm going to work with this young kid, Quentin Tarantino, and he did this little movie, Reservoir Dogs, and he was almost like thinking maybe nobody had heard of it.
Yeah.
And he was taking this chance, and which was
he did like
freaking cool of him.
Yeah, exactly. But he did that for like a long time. Like he did that movie Hostage because he liked that guy's movie.
Yeah. Good movie actually.
Yeah. Well, I hate the whole second half of it, but the opening credits. That's some of the coolest opening credits, of the last 20 years. But the first part's okay. All right, the end is terrible. But those opening credits are fucking amazing.
Hell yeah.
But I'm sorry, you were going to say about the chances that he's taking.
So I think that will be part of his legacy. Is he's one of our great movie stars, and he used his movie star well. He used his movie star cachet well to work with a lot of different filmmakers and make some really, really interesting movies. And and by the way, though, I think he's also kind of getting a bad rap for these movies that he's made the last 20 years. Sure. I've made a point to watch a bunch of them.
Yeah, he called me up. You called me up and told me
he's pretty fucking good in these movies. Some of them are really, really fun. I actually think it's like the people who are bad mouthing these movies, like, okay, well, you guys have obviously never seen exploitation movies before, because as exploitation movies, some of these are pretty fucking good. All right, I've yet to see like an Assault on Precinct 13. I've yet to see a Halloween. I've yet to see one that completely transcends the genre. But like I said, I like crappy Filipino exploitation movies from the 70s. So these are higher quality than those movies, and I like those. But some of them are pretty fun. Right?
Quentin called me up and he said, he started telling me he's watching all these these late Bruce movies, and I started thinking, well, he's probably going to start shit talking them. He's like, no, I'm sick of hearing people bagging on him. I started watching them. They're not bad. And so he gives me a list of them to watch, and I start watching them. I'm like, these are actually really good. These are like,
knowing that they're made in 2 weeks and sometimes less than that, sometimes 12 days. All right. Knowing that they're made for that, they actually have decent storylines. They actually have decent scripts. They have, Vice has got a really good storyline. That their wannabe Total Recall Westworld. Okay, that has a really good story. They don't quite live up to it, but it's there. But it's also really kind of cool. It's strategic to, again, from knowing how like Corman movies were made. It's really interesting because it's like, okay, no, they've got 2 weeks. They've got to do this thing. So all of Bruce Willis's stuff is like done within 2 or 3 days.
Sure.
He's wearing an earpiece, so he can never really have dialogue back and forth. So there's always going to be a cut after he says every line.
Sure.
But that doesn't. But that works. I like him in it. I like him in these. He's actually committing. He's actually very much committing to what he's doing.
Yeah, you need a compassionate director to make that work.
Yeah, there was this one that's like a ripoff of Die Hard that was really kind of fun. Where
at
Bruce
the
Willis,
hydroelectric plant.
Yeah, exactly. At the dam. At the dam. And, yes, exactly. That was fun.
It's a reversal.
Yes.
That was fun, and I liked that guy who was the lead. I thought he did a good job.
Yes, he was good.
Yeah, that guy did a good job.
He's like, I wasn't supposed to be here today.
Yeah. I think that's the Starship Trooper guy. All right, I think he was really good.
Was it Casper Van?
No. The other guy, the other dark-haired guy, who's in a lot of these straight-to-video things.
Yeah, that one's not bad. You're right. That
was fun.
That one holds
but Vice was. I didn't like care for Thomas Jane. He seemed like he was playing Jack Depp from Transfers.
Well, I like Jack Depp in Transfers.
All right. Well, it would have been better if it was Jack Depp. But Bruce was terrific in that one, and but there's this one with Michael Chiklis. All right, these robbers have to. The guy got knocked out, and he's lost 9 minutes, and he has to put together the 9 minutes that he lost. It is okay. Well, that's a pretty dynamic plot compared to like a Roger Corman New World Horizon movie.
Sure. Right.
These are for what they are. They're actually pretty classy productions.
Yeah. They're programmers.
And then all of a sudden, like Robert De Niro shows up for a fucking scene, and you go, "What the fuck? What is he doing here?" And then Hopkins shows up for one fucking scene, all right? Or John Malkovich for one fucking scene, right? And then Steve Guttenberg is the doctor. Like, what the fuck's going on here? And he doesn't even get special credit. He's like low down the bottom of the totem pole. Okay, Lisa and Steve Guttenberg as the doctor.
You gotta get that and credit.
Yeah,
right.
I want to talk about Austin Butler for a second, who I thought was his performance in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is masterful.
Terrific, yeah.
It's incredible, and obviously with Elvis now and what Baz Luhrmann did. I wasn't sure if you guys had a chance to see it, but there's a moment in the movie where Elvis learns about Sharon Tate's death.
Oh wow!
And I remember when I interviewed him for Elvis, I was like, was that weird for you? You're playing a character.
Is it like meta?
It's kind of a weirdly meta thing. So since you haven't seen it, I'm just curious what your thoughts would be on that. If you would want to watch the film and see that scene, would that?
Well, you ruined it for me because I didn't know that scene was in there.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Spoiler alert.
So, Fred, now, would you be surprised when you learned?
If you would have seen that Bruce Willis
when I was watching the movie, I would have been very surprised at that scene.
I am so sorry.
Was he auditioning for Elvis when he was doing
Hollywood? No. He was on when he auditioned for me. No, that was way after the fact. When he auditioned for me, he was doing Iceman Cometh on Broadway with Denzel Washington. Yeah.
Oh. I think back to being a Chicago guy, how much I love listening to Ebert and Siskel when they disagreed, yeah. Those are there are a handful, 1,000 episodes where they get along and like, I agree, 3 stars versus 3.5, whatever.
Yeah.
But when Siskel loved something and Ebert hated it, or when Ebert hated it, it's Moonraker.
That's our Moonraker episode.
Really? Which episode number is that?
That's number 2. That's our second episode.
That's my next one.
So I'm just sort of curious as to how far a friendship takes you until you disagree with a movie. Because Kevin and I have had people come up to us and go, "Are you okay after you guys fought over the new Lion King?" And I'm sort of curious, when you hit that moment where you go, "Oh no, you're totally wrong."
I think there's a time in my and Roger's life where that might have been more of the case. I mean, now it's just amusing when we disagree.
Yeah, it's fun. It's actually fun when we disagree.
It's more, Gala is more irritating. All right,
in a good way.
In a good way. That's more like, what are you talking about? All right, of course that's not the case. All right, but Roger's such a pushover now. All right, that it's all more just like amusing and whimsical. When we're not on the same page.
After making movies and after going through struggles of making films with too few resources and for me mostly non-studio films, I have a greater appreciation for the process. And even when a movie's not 100% successful, somebody bled into that. Mm-hmm. And I really respect that. Even when I don't really fully like the movie, or I can generally find something in it where I can understand why they made it, and so there's a lot of appreciation for me. And so even if I don't if I'm not bowled over by something, generally I respect it.
Sure.
I respect it. And having said that, I used to be really, really snarky, like back in the archives days.
No, in the video archives, no, he was a very tough customer.
I was super tough on everything.
This is not. That guy's gone. You've never met that guy. Yeah. Right? That guy. That's a piece of shit. Oh, why'd you bother saying that piece of shit?
It emerges every now and then, but I try to show more compassion as an older person.
No, the only people he talks that way about are genuine auteurs now of the last 20 years.
So wait,
and I have no problem mentioning him. Like, I have no problem saying I think Fincher's Mank is horse shit.
Oh, it's terrible.
I think it's an insult. Actually,
I love Mank.
It's not.
What?
I loved that movie.
I don't at all.
I don't love Citizen Kane, but I loved Mank. I know it sounds weird. I know it's maybe blasphemous, but I just
spoiling my whole experience with you.
I just want the record to state I've said nothing. I have said nothing. I am simply listening. I have said nothing. Just let the record state.
Yeah, Quentin is clean on this one.
Do you remember a movie?
How different were you in the video archive days?
What?
How different were you in the video archive days?
I think I'm pretty much exactly the same.
By the way, go back and watch Valentino by Ken Russell.
Okay.
If you want to see.
Well, that's Roger's interesting review on it, was the fact that to watch Valentino after seeing Mank, Valentino has a special purchase.
Valentino was hated by everyone when it came out, and even Ken Russell was like, "Oh, I should have made The Rose instead." Mm-hmm. He was like, "I wish I hadn't made that movie. That was the movie that ruined me," and blah blah blah. But when you watch it after Mank, you see, oh, that's what Mank was probably thinking it was going to be.
Right. Interesting. Okay.
And it's there's scenes in it that feel inspired by Valentino. And I had to watch Valentino to wash my eyes after Mank. It was just.
Man, you really did not like that movie.
No, I know it's shot digitally, but I think let's spend all this trouble to try to get the audio to sound authentic, but let's shoot it on video where we have to smoke up the fucking room because there's no actual depth to video.
Yeah. Quinn's not saying anything.
Yeah, Quinn's not saying anything. Quinn is so fucking diplomatic and political.
I'm not being diplomatic at all. I just don't want to offer up any opinions about a fellow colleague who I really respect's work.
Quinn was bitten by a bug.
Okay, so that was the Roger about every genre movie made in the 80s.
I just gave you an example of who I was in 1987.
All right. Every genre movie not made by Sam Raimi, that was Roger's opinion of them all.
Yeah.
So you guys don't think a movie should be allowed to have 5 different cuts before people decide which one they want?
I think a movie can have an personal, and I used to not think this. I mean, there is a kind of, we have a thing where, the theatrical release of the movie is the version that counts.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of our general belief.
Okay.
Having said that, when I saw what Lucas did by re-editing and re-envisioning and remaking THX, which a lot of people were shitting all over. Sure. This kind of, how dare you re-envision your own work? But he was doing things that he couldn't do back then. He couldn't afford to do. And maybe even couldn't do, he added that auto suck machine, sucking on Robert Duvall, while he's watching the porn. I never understood that that's what was happening. I saw these kind of holographic women dancing naked, and he's kind of sitting there looking kind of weird. I never knew that he was jacking off. Well, Lucas has the balls to add an auto suck machine, in the foreground.
That sounds pretty good. I never wanted to see. I don't like THX, so I don't want to see it again. More stuff. I don't need more stuff. That actually sounds pretty good.
He did things like in the factory when they're making stuff. Before it was some kind of oblique, abstract idea of putting cylinders into tubes or something. You don't know what they're doing, and there's a nuclear accident of some kind. Okay, in the re-envision version, he's made it, they're building the robots that enslave them. They're building the police in there. That's actually what they're doing. He adds layers upon layers of background people into the widescreen and enlarges the movie. I think it's with the one misstep of the kind of monkey creatures that are in it in the parking garage area. I think the movie is vastly better. In its
that actually sounds better.
Yeah, in its re-envisioned form.
Okay, that actually sounds.
I
better.
think he used all the tools and all the power at his fingertips to transform the movie into what he would have done back in the day if he had had the tools.
Interesting.
And I think it's really a brave and wonderful thing that he did.
The irony being that he's kind of famous for screwing movies up by going back in and taking
Han Solo can't shoot first. When he shoots the guy under the table. That's
okay. So the only problem I have with that is that they remove the prior versions of the movie. They remove in E.T. the fact that the Secret Service guys have guns. Now they're all carrying walkie-talkies. Okay, so you should at least allow those versions. Like Lucas, the one misstep he could do is to not allow his original version, his theatrical version of THX to exist and to be out there for people to look at. Like, we should be able to see the evolution of what he did. Sure. And you should still be able to see the ET that has, I get it. Spielberg grew up and he's like, this is a kid's movie. Let's take the guns out of it. Yeah. I understand that. That's reasonable. But he should allow the other version to exist.